and welcome to Healthy Perspectives. My name is Vernon Solomon of the American University of Antigua. We at AUA place a high degree of importance on health and education. As a consequence, it is our love for health education that this program has been developed. When it comes to your health, we have many options. But which option do you choose? Your choice is going to be determined largely on what your perspective or view of health really is. The aim of this program, as the name implies, is to offer a positive perspective on health, providing you with solid information that would facilitate your making sound decisions regarding your health. During the month of March, specific emphasis has been placed on eye health. Of particular importance has been the raising of awareness to a disease that is robbing many persons of their sight. This quiet, subtle, sneaky disease is called glaucoma. Joining us today is Dr. Julia Bird and Dr. Salem Zraibi. I'd like to see if we could get their perspective on glaucoma while at the same time offering us a healthy perspective on our oh so precious gift of sight. We have with us Dr. Julia Bird as well as Dr. Salem Zraibi. And because you've done such tremendous work with regards glaucoma within our twin island nation of Antigua and Barbuda, please, could you elaborate a little bit further on why there's that need, why there's that push to raise the awareness of glaucoma?
Well, there are many parts to that answer, Mr. Solomon, and I first have to thank AUA for once again partnering with us, the Glaucoma Support Group, in such a huge way. Every year, glaucoma is a huge problem, and so huge problems need huge efforts to help solve the problems. Right. Glaucoma is very prevalent in the black eyes, in eyes of African descent, and it's silent, meaning that the disease is well advanced before people understand that they have a problem. Because of this, it turns into what I call personally an information problem, an awareness problem. If you're not aware, and about over 50% of people that have glaucoma in the Western world are not aware that they have it. And so you can't fix something that you're not aware of. And so we really need to use a huge effort to raise the awareness for this huge problem.
You make that statement about people are not aware of it from the beginning. Earlier we were talking about perspectives and how people view health. Do you find that people, and Dr. Zraibi, please feel free to jump in here as well, do you find that people just are not taking care of their eyes or their health in general, or they put it to the back burner as to why it becomes so advanced before they even pick up on it?
A lot of areas of health fall into that trap, unfortunately, where routine well visits are not the order of the day. And of course, financial situations have a lot to do with that. True. Money has a lot to do with that. But so does knowledge and awareness, or lack of those. And so I feel that if we can continue plugging our awareness of glaucoma and the other silent disorders, then understanding and knowledge can help to change attitudes and behaviors. And that's why I do what we do. And that's why we do what we do. Would you agree?
Yes, definitely. I think people have this perception that if they can see what they can see in their daily lives, then they're fine. And glaucoma is not a vision problem in the sense of your central vision is most of the times intact. So you will still have 20/20 vision and still be suffering from middle stage, late stage glaucoma and have no idea. And most people come in and say, I can see straight across the sign. You know, people come in with all these stories about they have no problems, everything is okay, the vision is good. And in our society, I think we don't have highways, we don't have things that we have to read when we're driving. So you can really basically function and be okay with maybe 20/50 vision and think that that is 20/20, because we don't have highways and street signs and exits, and most people don't have a 9-to-5 job in an office where they're on the computer all day. So I mean, it all depends on what your lifestyle is.
So that's a good segue then into asking the question, when what triggers it? Where am I going to recognize that I should have sought treatment?
Well, you see, that's the thing. We don't want you to wait until you believe something is wrong and you need treatment. Getting an eye exam should be a yearly process in your daily life. Like every year you say, well, the eye doctor called me today, I should go and check my eyes. And I always tell my patients, I say, it's not about glasses. You know, that's only one aspect of our eye exams. It is, do you need new glasses? I always tell my patients, listen, you can come for 5 years and I can say you don't need to change your glasses. Mm-hmm. But it's about checking the pressure in the eye. It's about looking at the cornea, the front of the eye. It's also looking at the back and the retina, and just doing a really full eye exam. And what people don't realize is the eyes really give us a lot more information about what's happening in the rest of the body. Mm-hmm. There's so many diseases that can be seen just by doing an eye exam.
Mm-hmm. And elaborate on that, you say.
Well, the only place in the body that you can actually see blood vessels without doing surgery is by looking at the back of the eye. So when we look at the back of the eye, and we see these blood vessels, we can actually find diabetes, high blood pressure, cholesterol. The eye has an optic nerve, which we'll probably see later on, but the optic nerve is connected to the brain, and so we can tell if somebody has a tumor just by doing an eye exam. There's so many different aspects of an eye exam.
Of health.
It gives us so much information on systemic problems.
You had alluded earlier to the fact of expense, and sometimes that is a deterrent for it. Is it expensive for people to come and have this done on a routine basis?
Not really. If you do a relative comparison to what people spend at the beauty parlor every weekend, male and female, and so relative, it's just for us to understand the importance of early detection of so many diseases and how much money you can save by early detection rather than expensive treatment afterwards.
Because then again, that leads to the question of, well, what is the treatment? If I've delayed going to my doctor, what kind of expense am I looking at?
Well, if you put a cost on site, it's the ultimate expense. Unfortunately, glaucoma is a progressive disorder of damage to the optic nerve. And if treatment is instigated too late in that process of nerve cell death, then you could have the best treatment in the world, the best specialists, the best doctors, and you still lose the function of your optic nerve. And so I don't know a higher price on that than loss of sight.
Because treatment doesn't mean that you get back what you lost.
That's right.
With glaucoma, once you lose that
gone.
vision, it's gone. So the treatment is really to stop it from progressing. It's not really to fix things and give you back what you lost. So that's also a misconception.
That's
it's
right.
Like the drops you're going to use, the first line of defense is drops, but the drops are not going to have you regain the vision that you lost.
That's right.
So if you've lost 50-60% of your peripheral vision, that's going to stay that way. The drops are just protecting the other 40%, basically.
So what age are we saying that an individual would need to start having these checks done?
I mean, I always tell my patients, listen, bring your kids. As soon as they hit, one, they should be having eye exams, because yes, it's more prevalent in as you get older. But I've found glaucoma in young patients, in people in their 20s. So it'll be irresponsible to say it only happens from 40 onwards. It can happen to a 20-year-old.
I just completed a talk an hour ago at a primary school, and my associate that was my co-speaker is 22, and I diagnosed him at 10.
Oh, really?
And so he accompanies me on these talks to schools so that we can show a new face for glaucoma that people are not understanding. Within that classroom audience was a 13-year-old young lady that stood up and said, I have glaucoma. And at first, nobody took her seriously because we thought that she was just fooling. But when she walked me back through my memory banks, I had contact with her before. She's not my patient, but I had found her at a screening at the multipurpose mounted by AUA a year ago. And of course, I see so many children and I had no memory of her face. But when she walked me back through it, because her eye pressure was grossly elevated at the multipurpose center at that AUA screening. And so she was referred for follow-up and treatment. And she was reminding me of all of this. And so it was quite a dramatic moment. I was able to bring her to the front of the room and have her peers, her classmates, look at the true face of glaucoma. And the answer to my first question to her was, did you use your drops last night? And her chin went to her chest. No, I didn't. And I called on her classmates to join the team, the support team for this young lady. And I asked who lives next door to her. And all the hands shot up because it's a village school. And so everybody lives next door to everybody else. And they made a pledge that they were going to call her every night to ask, did you put your drops in? And I asked the question as I rounded off that segment, or what? And the cry went up in unison, blindness. So, I mean, that audience understood. And that's why we're here, and that's why we are on the streets in March every year, because World Glaucoma Week is a universal, I call it a celebration, because we really need to take it to another level. Celebration of sight.
And you share these experiences, and both of you as doctors appreciate the fact that we practice evidence-based medicine. And you look at what the research says, and from experiences of individuals and studies that have been done, have you found that there have been changes over the years with glaucoma, and whether it's how it's detected, how it's defined, how it's treated? Have things changed, or has it remained fairly constant?
I would say they're still doing studies, and it's still not fully understood why it's prevalent in people of African descent. And there's so many different theories that they're still trying to prove. Back in the day, they would treat if you came in with high pressures in your eye, but the back of the eye looked normal, the optic nerve looked normal, they wouldn't treat that patient. They would say that they would label that as ocular hypertension and say, but you don't have glaucoma. Then they did a glaucoma study, ocular hypertension study, and they realized 50% of those people develop glaucoma later on. So after that study, they said, wait, every patient that comes in with ocular hypertension, high pressures, even though the optic nerve is not damaged, we're gonna treat that patient as if it's glaucoma. And so that is a change from back when. Also, there's new technology now where there are GDXs and OCTs, which are really scanners that actually scan the optic nerve and look at every single fiber layer and gives the doctor a better understanding of what is really happening and how much visual field loss.
And we have those technologies here in Antigua?
We don't. That's one. We do have visual fields, which is where the patient clicks every time they see flashes of light. The only problem with that test is you're basing it on a patient doing that test properly. Okay. And a lot of times people, it's a test that takes a long time, and they get tired, and so they make mistakes. But these other scanners, actually all the patient does is just sits there, and the scanner does all the work. We don't have that technology here, which makes diagnosing early glaucoma a bit difficult. But we do have visual fields, and we do have, we look at the back of the eye and we photo document the optic nerves, and we follow that patient. I mean, Dr. Bird would probably say she follows up that patient. If she has a question mark, probably follows them up more regularly than someone else, just to be, and we also recommend our patients to, when they go away, to do those tests. Okay. if we find that, listen, I don't know if you have glaucoma. I mean, you're right on that ledge in a sense. Then I always recommend it. Hey, listen, if you're going on vacation, go see a glaucoma specialist and have this scan done, so we can know more about what's happening.
The research is really fascinating now in that particular area in terms of scanning optic nerves and looking for signs of early damage, because, as I said before, what we realize is that once you have to get in that gate early o'clock, and to decide what is early has been the challenge. More and more the research studies are showing that glaucoma is really not an eye disease. It's an eye disease, but it's not solely an eye disease, but rather a neurological disease, a neurodegenerative disorder, very similar to other neurodegenerative disorders like Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, things like Lou Gehrig's disease, diseases that we see a degeneration of nerve tissue, nerve cells.
It will now be introduced to our medical students to ensure that they have an up-to-date definition. But then that also means that from an eye standpoint, that we're also moving into preaching the same thing that we're preaching to our diabetic patients, that we're preaching to our hypertensive patients, when we're talking about cardiovascular disease and all of these things. So it really helps us, and you correct me if I'm wrong, it really helps us to see how the body's connected in more ways than one.
Correct. I mean, for diabetics, we keep preaching also, we're talking about glaucoma, but we can say the same for diabetics. Diabetics need to get their eyes checked once a year. That's a must. Because you can get diabetic retinopathy at the back of the eye when your blood sugar is not being controlled. And so you might be checking your blood your glucose levels and stuff and say, oh, it's normal. And you could also be bleeding in the back of the eye and have perfect 20/20 vision. I always tell my patients also, listen, if we catch the bleeding in the beginning, when it's early, then we can tell your medical doctor that this is what's happening. He might change your medication. You might change your eating habits. And that blood will go away. It will get resolved within a couple of months. But if you keep bleeding and no one knows about it and you think everything's fine and you keep bleeding more and more, you're going to wake up one day and you're going to come in to one of us and say, I can't see anything. I went to bed fine. The next morning, I can't see anything on my left eye or my right. So the same thing can be said about diabetics, hypertensives. It's really, the eyes are just a really easy way of making sure that everything is in check the rest of the body. Well.
I know this is obviously not to scale, but I'm wondering if you could point out to us a general area. I know we can't be precise, but a general area of where you're looking on this model that we have here for the optic nerve, or the general area. Would you be able to point out to us? So if we have the muscles.
The muscles, I guess the only way of really can this.
Yes, there we go.
You really have to remove muscles to expose the optic nerve.
Right, so this is really, what we see is not this. This is so this is the optic nerve. It's connected to the brain. What we really see, and when we talk about optic nerve damage, this is actually the retina. And behind, this is the optic nerve. Remember that stalk we were talking about? So that goes all the way to the brain. But what we see is actually this. You can see all the blood vessels we were talking about, and that little white spot that you see. This is just a diagram, really.
Correct.
We'll see the real optic nerve later on, but this is actually the optic nerve, and so this is what that little white circle. So this is what we are actually looking at as eye doctors to see whether there is
any damage.
So it's a very, very small surface area that you're
looking. You can't see it by
with the naked eye.
Even looking from the front, I mean, you have to look at the back to be able to see that optic nerve.
And all of these tests are painless. I think we need to stress that. Because a lot of people stay away because I'm not coming for the glaucoma test because it's going to hurt. because they realize that we do have to touch the eyeball very lightly and gently to measure the pressure. And so there's a misconception that a lot of this is painful, but it really isn't.
If we practice preventative medicine versus waiting till something actually happens, then maybe we can catch some of these things. Now, because I haven't had my routine eye exam, which I know I'm going to get in trouble with, I'm going to go and have my eye exam done. But however, before we do that, what I would like to ask you is, what suggestions then would you give to the viewers with regards to maintaining good eye health? We spoke about having the annual check. Because it's now a lifestyle, or moving in that direction of lifestyle, what are some of the things that we can conclude as far as giving them suggestions that they can do?
Sun protection.
Okay.
We live in the Caribbean, yet we hardly wear shades, or you go to a cricket game and 70% of the people are not wearing shades, yet we're in the sun all the time. Healthy living, really, it's proven that antioxidants do help in decreasing the progression of the aging of the eye. So leafy vegetables, carrots, there is truth to if I eat my carrots. It does, people say, should I go eat carrots so I don't have to wear glasses? No, but it decreases eating carrots and green tea and all these high, blueberries and all this stuff. They're just really high in antioxidants, and they protect the aging of the eyes. All these radicals from sun damage, and our own body makes these radicals. They tend to increase the progression of the aging of the eye. There's something called macular degeneration. Right. The macula is what gives us our 20/20 vision, and that as we get older degenerates basically. And so it's been proven that antioxidants help reduce the progression of macular degeneration by 30%. So these are the things. No smoking. Smoking is not good for the eyes. Dr. Burnett, you can...
The antioxidant therapy is actually one of the emerging areas in glaucoma treatment, in this new neurological thought about glaucoma, because they're realizing that the eye pressure medication for lowering the pressure, that's early treatment. So that's if we get along that chain of nerve death. If you think about optic nerve death, say as a stacked up pack of dominoes, it's a chain event, a cascade of this disability, I call it. You can get in early o'clock with eye pressure lowering medicine and perhaps decrease that first insult to the optic nerves, the chance of an insult to start that nerve damage cascade. But because it is silent, you very often get in after that nice entry point. And so researchers are looking at other aspects of that cascading event to see where to get in, to see if we can pull out one of those dominoes and collapse the whole death cycle. And the antioxidants are one of those that seem to come in somewhere after that initial insult has occurred. Antioxidants do some nerve protection. And there are a lot of other neurotrophic factors, they're called, that are being looked at now to come in even later in the game. So what we're advocating is very routine well exams, healthy lifestyle to begin with, so that you have a fresh, good diet, healthy living, good exercise with good circulation to your optic nerve. Early detection, check your eye pressures and so on early. Increase antioxidant therapy as you age. And there's a whole bunch of ways to do that Dr. Zraibi alluded to. A lot of supplements on the market now. We're even looking at something that's grown locally called turmeric that a lot of people know and don't use, and a lot of people still don't know. It's a root like ginger, and there's a lot of research, at least 20 studies ongoing right now on turmeric, and its anti-aging, anti-cancer, antioxidant properties. And there actually are capsules available now from the active ingredient called curcumin. that's being prescribed for glaucoma patients. Okay. So it's like a second level of therapy, but I believe we can use things like this that we have growing naturally. And so we're trying to encourage our people to get aware. That's part of our awareness, actually. So we're taking turmeric out to the communities next week and the week after, and to show how easily it grows by just pushing a piece of something that looks like ginger into the earth. And so healthy lifestyle from childhood. A lot of times we try to catch our morning, as we say, when we lose our afternoon, by wanting everything at age 60 to turn around these degenerative processes. That is too late. You have to get in ahead of the game in not only glaucoma, but many of the other lifestyle diseases. And early detection is the order for diabetes, as it is for cancer, as it is for glaucoma, as it is for any ailment, really. And lifelong treatment, lifelong compliance with treatment, a team between doctor and patient, is really the only way to manage glaucoma.
Okay. Thank you both so very much. Please don't go away. We have a bit more for you, but I have to say thank you both, and hopefully this won't be the last time we'll be having these types of discussions. We look forward to more.
Thank you for having us.
Anytime. We'll be right back. So we're continuing our discussion with Dr. Salem Zraibi, and in our last discussion we were talking about the optic nerve, and to get a clearer picture of what the optic nerve actually is, I'll let him perform the exam on me and let him explain in further detail.
This is the back of the eye. This is actually the retina. Okay?
Okay.
The first thing we look at is the optic nerve. This is what we've been talking about earlier. We were talking about the optic nerve.
Correct.
This is actually the optic nerve. This is actually connected to the brain.
Right.
Okay? So the first thing we do is we measure this optic nerve. Okay? I like to tell my patients that this is the tub of ice cream. Okay? So this is the tub of ice cream. And I said to go ahead and take a scoop of ice cream. This is your scoop of ice cream. Okay? And your scoop of ice cream is about 40%. Now that's average. That's what most people are, 40%. Anything bigger, right? We'll say around 60, 70, 80, 90. Then we'll have to label you as a glaucoma suspect.
Okay.
Because there's not just one thing that says you have glaucoma. There's different factors. So anything above the average, say, even 50, 60, 70, 80%, we put a little question mark. And then we check the pressures in the eye. We check family history, African descent or not. All those little factors will help us into figuring out whether this is glaucoma or not. In your case, your scoop of ice cream is about 40%.
Okay.
And so that is actually, and your pressures are normal, and so we can say that you're okay. You're within the normal limits, right? This little dark spot that you see here,
right,
that's the macula. That's what gives you your 20/20 vision. So if anything happened here, you would be completely blind.
Gotcha.
Your central vision will be gone. So this is your macula. And the great thing about doing eye exams, it's the only place in the body that you can actually see blood vessels. And all these blood vessels are branches of your main blood vessels in your body. And this is why we tell diabetics and hypertensives to get their eyes checked, because we can tell whether they're controlling their sugar or pressure just by looking at the back of the eye.
So as a diabetic or a hypertensive patient, what would you see?
What happens with diabetes is it attacks small blood vessels, and so you get these blood vessels start to leak, and they leak proteins and blood into the retina. And so you would actually find bleeding in the back of the eye.
Okay.
And I'll show you some pictures later on. So this is your right eye. And then if we quickly, this is your left. And again, we don't have to go through the tracing again, but again, I can tell right away that your scoop of ice cream here is also within normal limits, around 40%. Very nice, healthy optic nerve. Okay, it's nice and pink. You can notice how nice and pink this rim is. Okay, and the central, what we call the cup, is within normal limits. Okay, and your macula is within normal limits. That's why you have perfect vision. And of course, there's no bleeding in the back of the eyes. That's your...
So as it stands, I shouldn't have anything to worry about right now.
Correct. Doesn't mean that that's it. You have to keep checking your eyes once a year.
Exactly.
Okay. Vision loss doesn't happen very quickly. It's a very slow disease, right? And that's why it all depends. It could be every 6 months, it could be every year, just depending on the severity of looking at it. There's no, depending on the pressures. If your pressures are 21, normal is 10 to 21. If your pressures are 21, then I'll probably check you every 6 months.
Okay.
And I would have also checked your pressures at different times of the day, morning, afternoon, 5 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 9 o'clock, 11 o'clock, just different days, different times, and see if that pressure ever goes up. And every 6 months I'll probably follow you up. Okay. It just depends. But family history is a strong determinant in figuring whether this person really has glaucoma or not. Okay.
All right.
So these are, you're okay.
That's good to know. We thank you for spending some time with us today and for allowing us to share healthy perspectives with you. If you have any questions with regard to the topic that was discussed today, or if you have suggestions for future topics that we can discuss on this program, please feel free to email us at bewell@auamed.net. Be well, Antigua and Barbuda, and may your perspectives always be a healthy one.
Healthy Perspectives, an AUA ABS initiative offering you a positive view on health.